Steph or somebody can. We do have enough.
I
Tom,
can.
Okay.
maybe you
I'm
should-
sorry to interrupt, Chair, but I believe Councillor Morris had an amendment.
Sorry about that, guys. I had to pop out and answer the phone. I'm hoping that we could deal with 6.1 first, which is the budget items and information in the agenda. And then if we've got time, deal with anything that isn't budget related, because Kristen can only stay for an hour.
Well,
And
hopefully it won't be more than an hour.
yeah, but if we do the budget first, then we've got that out of the way, because that's the
Yeah.
really time sensitive one.
Yeah,
And
whatever
the
is,
other issues Tom's raised, he and I can deal with it, chat with Annette about that if we run out of time.
okay, as long as we're in order with everything that we're supposed to do, that's, I guess, procedurally okay, fine. So is that Kristen's, well, somebody was going to reintroduce Kristen, even though we recall her from previous years, but that was the point 4 was the introduction of Kristen, the new chief administrative officer.
Yeah, so it seems like there hasn't been much change on the Hoodpoint Local Service Area Committee. I see many of the same faces, so that's good. There's a lot of continuity here.
Getting older, only us.
Aren't we all?
Yeah, we
Well,
can't
we need
avoid that.
continuity.
Okay, so now did you, well, I see that was also supposed to be the election of a chair and a vice chair. That shouldn't be a long procedure, should it?
No,
I
let's do
don't
that.
think so, unless you're all going to fight over it.
No, well, I'm willing to restand as chair, so if there's no other contenders or nominations
Ask for nominations and
from the floor.
I nominate you.
Yeah, I second.
Okay, thank you. So all in favor?
All right.
Okay, then we have the vice chair, and I guess we'll see if there's any nominations. If there is none, I'll nominate Tom Raphael as vice
second that.
chair.
Yeah, second that.
Okay, all in favor?
All right.
Okay, so now I guess if Kristen wants to go to the budget, we've covered those.
Okay, I will. I do want to acknowledge that that the local advisory committee had put forth some actions that were requested from the last agenda. I want to acknowledge that I have them and I've seen them, but I do want to just let you know that I haven't had a chance yet to turn my attention to any of them. We're going to have to schedule a subsequent meeting where we can review these things. I'll take a moment just to read them to you if you like. So one was that a copy of the intra replacement cost breakout be provided to the LAC. The second was that it be confirmed that
Excuse me, Kristen.
Yeah.
Can you just explain when that says intra, was that meant to do with the cost of the infrastructure to replace the water system, the break that was being done by some outfit to list all our assets?
and Patrick, do you have
Is that what that refers to?
what intra replacement cost breakout means?
Yeah. What does that mean?
I think what we were trying to get at was we're putting in a reserve that's focused on an insurable amount, and we didn't understand the breakout of what is being insured and the costs.
Yeah. Is that what that is? I guess is what we're,
I'm wondering, is it something to do with the interconnection with Eagle Cliff and Hood Point? Is it something to do with that? No?
No,
Or is it how all the costs are shared amongst all the systems? But there used to be a spreadsheet for that.
well, I guess we'll maybe revisit it.
Come
If it's not
Okay.
short, if we can't explain it, we'll put it under review to be discussed at whatever
Okay.
that
I'll
session
let
is.
you guys get back to me with that one. Please reach out to me if you have additional clarification on what you'd like.
it's
Okay.
insurable.
The second was that the members requested that it be confirmed that users other than BIM contribute to replacement cost of the dam on Honeymoon Lake. So again, maybe some clarification on the wording needs that, but users other than Hood Point users would contribute to replacement cost of the dam on Honeymoon Lake.
Well, yeah, there's 20 users from the Honeymoon Creek Water Users Association that we granted licenses to back in 1980s with the provincial government.
Okay. Okay, so maybe I'll reach out to either Tom or you, Steve. Oh, you're still talking.
We've lost your sound again, Steve.
My internet connection is unstable.
There you are.
Ah,
You're back.
you're back.
No. Okay.
Maybe
Anyway,
I can reach out and get some additional information on the history of it from you, and we can have a conversation about it. I can do some research and come back to the next meeting with some
Yeah. Okay.
additional information. The next was that a written confirmation regarding whether linear infrastructure and the dam can be insured. I can have a chat with the municipal insurance authority and just get clarity on that. It's actually a question that I've know that in the past that I've kind of wondered about myself. So that's a great opportunity because it has applicability for everybody on island. So I'll definitely make an appointment and talk to them and just get clarity about what assets are insurable and what are not. So I'll do that. Number 4, a discussion taking place regarding properties. This sounds interesting to me because I don't understand this one. Properties not eligible for property tax charges. Discussion take place about that.
Oh, I can explain
And I
that.
don't know what that means. Sorry.
Tom and I've discussed that one several times. It has to do with the parcel tax, correct, Tom? That's that one?
I think so.
There's part of the land that because of the zoning can never be built on, will never have a water connection. Yet it's paying parcel taxes. But as I said to Tom yesterday, it's parcel taxes to Hoodpoint. So it, you're paying yourselves. So it's just increasing and that amount you want for reserves probably would just get allocated amongst everybody else. So it's something we can talk about, but I don't think it's crucial to today's discussion.
Okay. Yeah.
So there are properties that are unable to connect in Hoodpoint,
Yeah.
Unbuilt
Yeah.
properties?
We'll get you the map and show you which ones they are, and we can talk
Okay,
about
good.
the process.
Okay, fair enough. And lastly, an LAC member requested that separating the legal audit insurance line items be discussed at the subsequent LAC meeting. Yes, I could do that. I could have done that kind of easily. I didn't see these until this morning after the material had been prepared. So again, I can do that for the next meeting.
Great.
Thanks.
Or just an
Okay.
email.
So that we will be in touch over those few things, and probably not until after tax notices go out and we have a little more time on our plate, but we can start doing a little bit of research, and some of it is very keen. I'm very keen to know more about. So I will start looking
Okay.
after that for you. So we're gonna just talk a little bit about the budget, the 5-year plan first. I have some slides here. I'll send them to you, Steph, because I didn't send them to you in advance. I have a fun slideshow. So, I need to share first. Sorry, I have my mouse going all over the place. Right. Okay, so I'm gonna. Okay, so I think you're looking at my screen. It should say Hoodpoint revenue 2021.
Right.
Yep.
Great, okay. Okay, so with the revenue to begin with, I had a look at your 2021 rates, your Hoodpoint properties. There's 16 unconnected, 95 connected, and there's a total of 97 properties that are paying the user rate. So overall in 2021, there was 120,305 collected in Hoodpoint revenue. For 2022, under the assumptions, I'm going with the same number of connected properties and unconnected properties, suggesting that for the parcel tax, and is that a little bit cut off? That for the parcel tax that we increase it a little bit, going up to 240, and to 420 for the unconnected and connected rate, and then small increases over the next 5 years to just continue on that path that Hoodpoint has been on, that good long-term financial planning path, and putting money away into the reserves.
Just before,
For the user rates,
What,
same,
can I,
sorry, yep,
before you leave that,
Mhm.
I used to set these before the municipality was formed, and our unconnected rate was always less than half of our connected rate. And if you look at the 2021, it's 205 versus 415
mhm,
in 2021. And I would propose that the unconnected rate go from 205 to 210 to 215 to 220, 225, 230. And that way it stays approximately at half of what the connected rate is. Otherwise, it's a huge increase on the unconnected.
I was just wondering that, Kristen, why was it increased 20% on the unconnected and only 1.2% on the connected? What was the,
well, I guess in my thinking, there's the user rates, there's revenue coming from the connected properties as well from user rates too. I really, there's not a whole, there wasn't a lot of real strategic planning on my part. I just used a
So we,
simple math to do it. If you prefer that rate always stay under 50% of the connected rate, then that's some, that's some guidance that I can take and make sure in future I do that. So I'm happy to.
yeah, I guess, I don't know. There's not that many. I just wondered because normally, yeah, we have increased it, but after like not a whole lot. And I just wonder why it was
Yeah.
20%, but if it
Well,
was,
I mean, I know, like, I know on a percentage it may be high, but I mean, for actual dollars from 205 to
well,
$35 a year, it's not a huge,
that,
monetary amount. So
My recollection is that we've always been, I thought, set the unconnected rate as half of the connected rate. I was just
yeah,
gonna go
that's sort
check
of
the
what,
bylaw and see if it was even in there.
okay, so you're suggesting it then be 210?
210, yeah.
Yeah,
So you might want to increase to 420 because you've got a certain amount you're trying to recover with that, right?
Well, it's not no, I think the number of people, the parcel, well, the difference, I don't know how much it would make, but
Yeah, I can do that. Then the math doesn't work so nice on the 465 or the 485, but I will,
Round them up,
revise
just
those
nearest
two.
$10.
so
Yeah.
what are the final actual numbers? So we write them down.
what?
So then propose that the unconnected well, let's do the connected, and then we know that the unconnected is half of that. So if you're more comfortable with 420 and 440, and are you suggesting that it just be a straight $20 increase over the entire 5-year period? I think there's probably some good advice to start to increase those amounts in the later years,
Keep them,
just to deal with inflation and those sorts of things. $20 3 years from now isn't going to be $20 now. So
what I proposed at the beginning, and I'm proposing again, is 2022 on unconnected be 210, which is a $5 increase. And in 2023, it'd be 215, and in 2024, it'd be 220, and then 225 and 25 and 230 and 226.
Isn't it simpler, no disrespect, Tom, to just have to say the connected rate will be X and the unconnected rate will be 50% of X? And therefore you've got the methodology.
I'm just trying to fill in a chart. That's fine.
Yeah. But if you did 420, 440, 460,
then maybe you want to go 490.
490,
but
yeah.
we're leaving the connected,
And yeah,
you're saying leaving the connected at 420, which would make the unconnected at 210.
yeah. And then the
Yeah,
223,
And then go
440
from
and
there.
220 and And then maybe increase the 2024 to 470 and 2025 to 490.
I think so.
Yeah, and it divides easily in half and
Are all members in favor of that?
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah,
Okay,
Okay, so can I just read that out one more time? We will only deal with the connected rate and we'll establish that at 420, 440, 470, 490, and 510.
why did those ones change later on?
They're still just increasing in the last,
Yeah, but
3
I've
years?
got 2024 is 465, not 470.
well, you need to round it to a nice number that divides them two evenly.
Oh, okay, is that what?
we like friendly math.
Okay, so, yeah, okay, whatever those are, fine.
Okay,
Okay,
and those are out for years, will change anyhow. I'm
They'll
sure.
change anyway, right?
they will, yeah.
what was the 2026 number?
510.
510. Thank you.
But they could change anyway.
They'll-
Okay.
They
so-
certainly will in the next 5 years, yes.
Okay,
So user rates then for the assumptions, I set the initial 2022 user rate, suggesting that go to 840. And then moderate increases each year. $30 in the first year, $30 in the second year, 35 in the third year, and then I guess I've got 20 in the fifth year. But again, those way out there will change. What I did try to establish was that the annual increase was somewhere in the range of about 4%.
so Kristen, why does one lot have two connections?
There's a lot there.
Your
They
previous
have two
slide had
dwellings on it.
two lots with two connections.
No, there's just one lot with two connections. There's
Okay.
one lot with two dwellings.
Yeah,
Oh, that's that lot. I
Yeah.
thought we got that sorted out.
Well, they pay 2 user rates.
They pay two user rates, that's right.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, okay. Yeah,
So in the material, it shows that those annual increases are somewhere within the neighborhood of 4.2%, somewhere in there.
okay.
Looking at the operating expenses from 2021, there were some extraordinary labor expenses, staffing expenses in 2021, which was related to some extraordinary costs that we had with regards to implementing the collective agreement, because all of the utility operators outside staff now are part of the union. So we had some one-time costs there that kind of bumped up salaries a little bit, but we expect that to come back down a little bit for 2022. We're looking at the actual change should be from budget 33,300 to 37,400 for 2022. The supplies and services, there's actually a bit of a decrease that I budgeted for, and that was just based on the experience in 2021. We only ended up needing 7,000, so I thought it was reasonable to put that expenditure down from 25 to 19. So we're basically maintaining the same budget level of expenditures as we did in 2021, because looking at the actual expenditures in Hoodpoint for 2021, we only spent basically 75% of the entire budget. So even with the inflationary costs or the additional costs that arise from the collective agreement, we still think that we'll be able to fit those in within the same $82,000 a year budget level. Operating expenses in the outer years, in years 2 to 5, they've just pretty much been maintained at the 2022 level. And I've added a 2% inflation factor for each of the years for years 2 to 5. There's an unusual expense that happens in the operating budget every second year. So we have every second year we undertake a maintenance program that includes maintenance on all of the fire hydrants. And that's a very big expense, but it does only happen once a year. So that's why the odd and even years kind of have that variance from the budgeted expenditure lines. You guys had no capital.
That seems like quite a bit of difference from the 2021 actual at 61,000. Is that the one? Yeah, we're looking at
From
there.
actual?
Yeah, well, then it was a budgeted at 83, but it was only 61. And
Yeah,
then,
that's why I
Supplies
didn't
and
increase the
services
budget
line.
this year.
what's that?
Is the supplies and services line. Which I
Yeah.
think that sort of covers off, if staff has to go out and deal with a leak or repairs or stuff like that, right? Something
I
extra?
don't know what supplies, we never sure what some of these titles are, supplies and services.
Also, you've also got that $5,000 road thing is that, I think that's in operating too, isn't it? That is just really there as a provision in order to deal with the road access if that happens to come up in the year.
Okay, well,
I think what Steve is asking is the actual supplies and services proved out to be 7,000. We had budgeted 25.
Yeah.
So why we don't go to 9 instead of 19? You know, why are you maintaining that high number?
Well, I mean, at the end of the day, what's not spent goes into the reserve. So,
Yeah, but it could be 40.
What does supplies and services cover, Kristen?
I'll
Or
have
Annette?
to- I mean, it's all kinds of materials. It's going to be all kinds of chlorine. It's going to be, all of the purchases, the small tools and equipment stuff. Oh, there's also in supplies and services is also fuel for the truck allocation that goes to each of the water systems too. So,
That's gonna go up.
yeah. Fuel is one of those things that is expensive, more expensive this year. And the other that's more expensive this year, which is why I put it up, is the provision for insurance. And across the board, I've been told from insurance that it's what they call a very hard market right now. And all of the renewals that are coming with like multi-digit percentage increases. So I do have some concern around those insurance premiums when they come due this year. And as well, we do have increased audit costs this year. We only renewed with our auditor for a 1-year contract. And I think that we may be paying a bit of a premium on that.
so basically we're just setting our user rate based on the budget. And if it's under, then we just put the funds into the reserve. If
You have more savings.
Yeah. Okay. And I guess it probably will never happen, but somewhere where we're actually under and we'll be not having to put anything from.
No. And the other side of that is what you're not facing and what other water districts are facing are significant double-digit increases in user rates. But
Right.
because
Yeah. Oh,
I
yeah.
think that the budgeting and the financial planning in Hoodpoint has been quite prudent and quite conservative, that there's, by making adequate allowances for expenses and knowing that it just goes into your savings reserve at the end of the year, then, you have a little bit of room there. You have some comfort to, to continue a gradual, moderate kind of 4% revenue increase. So
Yeah.
it's,
Okay.
Kirsten, can I just add, please? You have a list on the side that we're going to discuss separately.
okay.
And at every one of these meetings, Steve and I and others on the advisory board never know what these categories are. I mean, we just talked about supplies and services, but we don't know what they mean.
Mhm.
You included insurance in that, but yet you look down 4 lines and there's an insurance line as well.
No, I didn't include it in supplies and services. I was
I'm just
speaking to that line. Sorry.
We don't know
Yeah.
what they mean, and if some breakdown would help us, because many of us are used to looking at these and understanding what the columns mean.
Mhm. Yeah. Oh,
As
okay.
We don't know.
Okay. I can print out a GL listing for you if you like, after we get that budget uploaded, and then you can have that kind of in the background. I'm not going to present information at that granular level. It's just, we're looking at line items for like $100 here and $500 here. And that's just too granular, I think, for useful information. If you want that level of detail, I'm not gonna not let you have it. I'm happy to let you have it, but I'm not gonna do my presentations at that.
No, I think
low
what I
GL
think,
account level.
Kristen, sorry, but what I think Tom is getting, and what we've been sort of trying to do is somewhere, if you have a backup sheet, and maybe we only need it once, just explaining when you say supplies and services, what is the broader definition of the items? We don't need to see, I mean, it would be nice, yes, if you could provide all the makeup numbers that go behind each one, but I know that would be copious. But even if we knew what items, and if the public was even looking at that, and then they start, which fortunately, I guess most people don't spend the time, but they would say supplies and services, and they say we're $25,000 and we, or whatever, what is supplies and service, just some general description of what that line item entails.
I'll email it to you. I can break my financial report out right down to the GL level. So I'm happy to send that to you. But like I said, for presentation purposes, I just think that getting to that level of granularity is just a little. Well,
no, that's what I say. We don't need it if we know once and for all what are those line items.
Okay.
Then each year we know what is in that column.
Okay, I will email you that
So
like the template for the report. Is that what you want then?
Your GL listing would show what items roll up to make that line item of supplies.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the only one we think that should be broken, because they are very different items, is I guess you could have legal and audit maybe, but even I think that any legal fees should be different and whatever the audit is. And then our water licenses, to see actually how much those licenses cost that you pay on our behalf that goes into our budget. And I think one time Bob Robinson did actually have the billing, or a copy of the billing that the provincial government sent, and sort of showed the number of licenses that he was paying from our part of the system. But
yeah, he wanted you to combine them all into one license. That's why he did that.
Yeah, well, I think, some
different discussion.
There's obviously 90 or 7 or whatever, how many users are, and they all have license. So we must, just to see what that breaks down to as part of their expense, but that would make it more understandable.
Okay, I can do that. I can break those out into those three categories.
We don't have legal very often, I would hope, and the audits and
the insurance one would be interesting too, because that would show through the different systems.
Well, that was the other one. Yeah, the insurance, how much we're paying for insuring our.
The different property values and the different replacement values in the different systems. If that insurance number was a separate number, but I'm assuming that also includes liability, which was probably prorated on the basis of connection.
Yeah. Well, whatever is possible.
It's only the property insurance.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's property. Yeah.
The liability is covered under our municipal MIA, and we allocate
policy.
that to water systems, but it's a good idea.
Okay.
2% inflation factor for years 2 to 5.
I wish.
Well, I'm being hopeful, but you're right, in this climate and in, given the economic pressures that we know we're under, I think 2% is very aggressive. I think that we need to probably increase that inflationary factor for the outer years at the very least, and maybe not use 2% across the board, but certainly closer to 3 and maybe even 5 for the 6th year, I spoke about the biannual hydrant maintenance program that happens, which is the reason for that kind of up and down pattern of the maintenance expenditures there. Your capital expenditures for 2021 were nothing. But we do create a budget provision for them. So we budget to ensure that there's money set aside in the case of equipment failures or equipment breakdowns, so that if if you have a pump that goes down or things like that, then we have money set aside for that. Part of the capital work that Patrick is proposing that take place this year. Yeah, I've got this line item. It's called Flow Works. It's not necessarily Flow Works. That's a software system that manages meters and water readings and things. And I don't know if Patrick wants to take the opportunity to speak to you a little bit about it now. Do you want to speak, Patrick?
I don't think that's related to FlowWorks. I think that's just the share of looking at, and this is
That's what I said. It's not necessarily FlowWorks, but it's something to do with optimizing meters, right?
Yeah, this was something that was proposed going back a couple of years before I got here, and it's been deferred. Really looking at the idea of installing an automated metering system, which would make things a lot more efficient operationally in terms of staff reading meters, and also make it a lot more responsive in terms of identifying leaks in the system. So that's really just Hoodpoint's share of investigating that implementing that across the municipal systems. And, if something that made sense could be rolled out, the main cost would be in replacing meters and, the software and SCADA. So that would be in subsequent years.
So looking at the meter replacement line, and I thought we had a lot more money in there. We were talking this time or last year's budget discussion about actually replacing the meters so they could be read with remotely and all that stuff this 2021, 2022, but $1,600 looks like it's just one particular meter that needs replacing, because there's nothing in the 2022 budget for meter replacement.
Well, I haven't put anything in the budget for meter replacement, but I've put it in the outer years. So I think Patrick's plan was to initially do the assessment of what type of meter technology would meet the needs. And then in the outer years, there's an allowance there of $8,000 per year to actually do the swap over. So that's kind of a phased.
So you wouldn't do it all in 1 year?
No, that would be a big job and a lot of work and
well, I'm thinking per system, like do it, spread it out over. So you do all of Hoodpoint in 1 year, and then all of Eagle Cliff in another year, so that that the whole system is then up and running and online instead of piecemeal.
Essentially, we've had, this is it's a good idea. It's just been pushed out by other more immediate priorities, and that may happen again. It's not the highest priority. It would improve the systems operationally, but it's not the highest priority. And it may be that, like you said, it's not rolled out over 5 years. It's something that we budget as a capital project over 1 or 2 years. That's all to be determined.
And it would save money operationally if you had this, right?
It would. We haven't actually looked at a life cycle cost business casing, how much you save in operators reading meters versus how much, it costs to finance the system upgrades. But I mean, that's one of the drivers, that it would save operationally.
But Patrick, just under the capital expenditures, because there is nothing in there this year, we didn't spend anything on replacing things at the treatment plant, or I guess are some of those things considered just maintenance expenditure? They're not capital?
They must have been coded to operational maintenance, because there was some expenditures in November when we had those substantial rains. There was quite a bit of damage to the dam that we repaired.
Oh.
And in the process of repairing that, we had to make some improvements to the access road to be able to get the rock up there.
Oh, okay, that was one of the things I wondered if that road we talked about it back in last fall, that it was in pretty rough shape. So they did repair the road?
Yeah, I mean, it's still in rough shape, but you know, it's better. You can get a truck up, a small truck with.
Okay, well, that's something that I had in my notes, that we should be making some significant expense to, we did it once quite a few years ago and then nothing's happened. But if we're going to, and that's the other issue, be having to do more inspections in the summer months because of possible water loss or using Eagle Cliff sharing or whatever, that we want to have easier access to go up there and monitor the lake levels. So I don't know whether, again, that's something that has to be talked about in the budget, that road is that in there, the money that was spent or something already?
That should be in the actuals for 2021.
Is that work self-performed, Patrick?
It was, so we'll have to make sure that was coded properly, but it was done. I mean, we used a local contractor and our own staff. It was a combination. So,
Yes,
But
so
it was-
that would need to be coded properly to get picked up. Otherwise, it's probably just gonna,
Well,
end up
if
getting-
somebody else paid for it, we're quite happy.
yeah,
It was done by the roads crew, so it's possible it wasn't coded properly.
yeah,
The other work that was done related to, and this is frequent, right? The supply line from Honeymoon Lake is above ground. It freezes,
Right.
and it froze for close to a month. In January, water to your system was coming from Eagle Cliff, and there was pipe repairs relating to the frozen line. So if we're looking at because of all the difficulties in some of the other water systems, we haven't spent as much time looking at the long-range capital plan for Hoodpoint. Things that you might want to do in the coming years would be, you know, one thing you mentioned was road and access improvements, improvements to the supply line to provide a more resilient system that's either buried or insulated and doesn't freeze. That might be another investment that you might want to make in the system.
Okay.
Can I just mention this because we keep touching on this? We did with Bob.
Can you speak up, Tom? I
You
can't hear you.
Hear you, Tom.
Okay. What do I look at?
Are you right near your computer?
I'm just looking if there's a volume.
If you go, there's a mute button and a little arrow beside it.
I
Click
see
the
it.
arrow and there will be audio settings
Sorry, select a microphone, select a speaker.
beside
Audio
the
setting.
microphone.
Got it.
Good.
Okay. Output volume going up. Is that better?
No.
Input volume going up?
You
Right.
haven't got headphones on, have you, like Steve had?
that's what it sounds like.
I'm on a Mac, so it's different. Anyway, I'll speak up. Bob Robinson, sorry, the current road that accesses the dam, Steve and I drove up it a couple of months ago, goes over private property. And there was a time when we used to notify the private property owner that we were going up. They also draw water and benefit from the dam and draw from the reservoir. But Bob Robinson showed us a route that would be less steep and would be on provincial land all the way up. And
No, correct that, Tom. The land, it starts out, the municipality does have a road easement allowance to connect to. It's actually Crown land that our lake butts up to. It's Hoodpoint Properties owns the land around the lake, but it's the road crosses Crown land that we would, I guess, get permission to do on that. But that's a bigger issue for replacing that road.
I'm not worried about access on Crown land. It's just that Bob was recommending it as an easier route up.
Yes,
And
yeah, that's right.
I think we should look at.
Yeah, well, if we're going to do something significant, But we should maybe also consider, which is something we have to think about, is it also provides access to the private landowner. In fact, they use the road, and maybe they should be involved in some cost contribution. So that's another story. Somehow I've gone off video here. See,
Patrick, I just
Oh, we
want.
can hear you.
you can hear me.
Can
see you.
Can you see me?
Yes,
You can't see them.
I can.
Oh.
I can't.
This was actually raised by the province. One of the things that $5,000 additional capital expenditures, we still haven't finalized the required dam emergency plan and operation, maintenance, and surveillance plan that's required for all of our dams under the provincial legislation. That's nearly completed. And it was one of the things that came back as a comment from the province was about this, lack of, public tenure on the access route to the dam and what our plans were to deal with that. And so as we've identified here, we haven't confirmed what those plans are. But ideally, long term, we should have a dedicated route and right of way, and it may or may not be the existing alignment.
As long as that's in your sights, I'm quite content.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So that's the $5,000 in other capital expenditures that Patrick alluded to, is the requirement now to undertake a dam safety operation maintenance guide. And that
Okay.
involves, what does that involve, Patrick?
It involves laying out what the emergency plan is in the event of a dam failure. You have to classify the dam. That's one thing that's, so CREAS was doing that plan for us, CREAS Engineering. They did propose a change to the consequence rating for the dam to low because of the lack of residents and properties downstream. So the province had asked for, a more detailed inundation mapping for a dam breach scenario to support that. So the dam emergency plan, it lays out what happens in the event of emergency, and the operation, maintenance, and surveillance plan identifies what should be done, on an ongoing basis as operation and maintenance activities, cutting trees that are starting to sprout up on the dam, operational type work that should be done. And so that's what those are. And there's provincial standards that lay out how that's to be presented.
Thank you. And the one other piece that we didn't talk about was continuing our work on the asset management plan. And in many of the waters, in all of the water systems, we have this notation. It's about GIS and implementing a GIS. So is that to create those GIS records of all of the water assets? Is that what that means?
Yeah, I mean, it's a general budget item relating to advancing asset management through all the water systems, and some work on our inventory and identifying, what we have and where it is and what the remaining lifespan is. That's a key step towards getting to a place where we actually have a 30-year capital replacement plan, say, for each of the water systems.
It's interesting too, because as a requirement these days now of all of our grants and all of those applications that we made of grants, as part of the completion phase of wrapping up those grants, they're always asking where are you with your asset management plan? And what steps do you need to take to get you to the optimum, like where do you want to be? So that work is going to be key and more important in the future to making sure that that we're have a high likelihood of success when we go to apply for grants in the future. So it is really important work that it gets done. Thank you, Patrick. For the out years, the years 2 to 4, all we did was just again put in that provision for pump breakdown, equipment breakdown, and potentially looking to implement a phased approach to upgrading and updating the meters in the system. So that's all we have for the capital program at this point with Hoodpoint. I just put together a bit of a quick analysis of if everything goes to plan based on these rates, based on these expenditures, if you collected all the rates and you spent every cent that was in your plan, your reserve and surplus funds, they would start with a balance now where you're at about 678,000, and over the course of the 5 years, you would be you'd be up to 806 at the end of that 5-year period. So that demonstrates an annual dedicated contribution to that surplus fund, which is really, you know, great in the long-term planning and making sure that you put that money away to ensure financial sustainability into the future. So I think that's it from me.
Okay. Any other questions on the budget? I guess we have to adopt it, or?
Only question I had, I just got one question. Is the 806 at the end of 2026? I think we talked about this another time. Is there a good number? Like what, where should we be?
Well, that's a function of what the asset is worth, which is a function of the insurance replacement cost, which is item number 1 on the list of things that Kristen has discussed. That's where we were before.
Isn't it the fund balance that Bob was asking about?
Pardon me?
Well, I thought Bob was asking about the 806,000, and that's not the schedule that we've got on the screen.
Just for 806 at the end of 2026.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the fund balance is
Yeah.
next.
Your question was, is that enough money? And to be honest, that's the whole point of the asset management plan. That asset management plan will inform what that number needs to be. It's really like a depreciation report for a condo. Like it'll
Right,
tell
right.
you
Yeah.
where you need to be. So without the other side of that asset management plan, I can, and I don't think Patrick can really give you an honest opinion if that's the right number.
It's probably like, if you look at, you know, a best practice, it's probably still low. Like if you thought about it having to, if you had to do a major project relating to the dam or the water main, supplying the system from Honeymoon Lake, you know, you'd probably still be into borrowing money, right, for to finance that.
Yeah.
Something.
I think, Patrick, there was some number thrown out a few that our system was approximately, but it's not been defined, $6 million, and you were supposed to put in 1% a year, which would be 60,000. And so we're sort of fairly close. If we put in 60, as I see it here, we transferred $61,000 this year, but maybe it could actually be 2% or something, which would be 120, which is quite a bit more. But at the end of the day, we would just have to borrow the money amongst the users and top up if there was a major, and I'm thinking more a treatment plant that might have to be replaced at some point, but
That's relatively new, isn't it?
25 years.
Oh, is it that old? I was thinking it got upgraded when you did the water lines.
Yeah, that was 20. Well, it was about.
Oh yeah, I guess it is 25 years. Time flies when we're having
Yeah,
fun.
we started in 1998, 99 or something. And so anyway, it's I don't know, there could be some discussion on that as another point of where, if it's even in the best location and what better system could be put in there. But that, anyway, at this point, I guess we've got some reserve, which is at least semi-adequate. And until we get the final assessment of what the cost of the system is, whether we want to then try to change that contribution or reserve every year.
So then I guess my request, please, to the local area service committee would be for a recommendation to council to approve the financial plan, the 5-year financial plan. And I guess also the parcel taxes as amended.
I have proposed that.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Yeah.
Good job, Kristen. I don't know if you can hear me, but good job.
Oh, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
nice to see you. And I'm sorry, I do have to check out. So I'll stick around for as long as I can, but I do have another meeting that I have to prepare for a little bit. So I'll stick around for a bit and listen, but I'll turn it over to Patrick now. Thank you, Patrick. And
Okay. Thank you, Chris, for your work.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Oh,
Want to do
sure.
7.1 next, which is billing records, user fees and parcel taxes, or have we covered that off?
No, we're going to Patrick's report on the upstate of the water system, I guess. And the,
We are on the agenda. What item?
5.2?
well, no, we had a submission on the, and I don't see it showing here for some reason, that the revisions that were made to the water annual drinking report. Either,
That because of Steph being away didn't get to Annette, and that's something maybe we should discuss with her about the file, or do you want to do that now?
I'd like to do it now if I could, please. It won't.
I have received them. I have received them just before this meeting. I took a quick look at these suggestions, and I wanted to say that the annual drinking water report in the future, or starting this year, will be it will be a combined report of all the systems, and it will not contain any data other than water quality data and data relating to it. I want to take a look and see what of your suggestions can be directly incorporated on the website under the local advisory committee section.
Well,
But it will be different. It will not be in the drinking water report.
Thank you for telling me that. I understand we can't correct an already filed report, but what's really, really important, the most important thing I'll say at this meeting is that the statement in the report filed with the province says the municipality has over 120 separate water licenses on Honeymoon Lake. That statement isn't right. What it should read is the municipality holds over 120 separate water licenses in trust for the individual properties, mainly in the Hoodpoint specified area. We fought long and hard to get these licenses back, and there's a letter from the province, the highest person, the water czar of the province, saying what I just read, that they're just held in trust by the municipality for us. And these water licenses are very valuable to us. And the idea that it would say in a report that the municipality holds them is inaccurate. The other significant point is that the province has made clear that the number of licenses issued is the maximum number that can be granted given the capacity of Honeymoon Lake. It's at its maximum. So anybody who wants to develop and wants to draw water from Honeymoon Lake Reservoir must have one of those licenses. Those are important points from our point of view.
and I guess in light of that, there's not going to be a report that somewhere in the records of the offices of the municipality that is recorded so that future people that come that were not involved at this point would have that as a reference when they look at each individual system, and specifically if they look at our system to see what is this description history, that's reflected there so that they would know that without us having to keep reminding.
If you look at the minutes of we didn't get to approve last meeting's minute, but in those minutes is a letter I wrote saying exactly what I just said, and it was ignored. So we're concerned because these licenses are incredibly valuable to us.
We will see. I will see how this can best be. This information can be preserved and summarized in a way that it is accessible and does not get lost over the years. But it will not be in the drinking water report.
Okay, we appreciate if you can at least let us know what can be done to do that, then we'll see what that produces. That would be great.
Well, it would probably be as part of our improving our records management in general. We want to have a better file on all of our water license information. So that would be the natural home for it.
Good, okay.
I think Annette's suggestion about if you're not going to be doing the full-blown reports for the drinking water officer for Vancouver Coastal Health, that something about, when's the system were established, numbers of users and all that kind of information is sort of a general information on each water systems page on the website or something. So people that are looking to buy properties or whatever can get that information, or users can get that information, which they can now get from the annual water report.
Okay, yeah. Any number of places that can be recorded would be good.
Plus, quantity information helps with conservation usage information.
Okay. Well, Patrick, was there something else there?
Well, in terms of operations, we've talked about a couple of issues already relating to the dam and the water main, and the dam emergency plan. In terms of water quality, one of the issues that keeps recurring is the disinfection byproducts being higher than what the drinking water guidelines show, and we're not entirely sure why that is. There was a replacement of filter media that didn't seem to make much of a difference. It's not really something you call a public health concern, but it is above what the guidelines indicate.
Can I ask a question on that? I don't know if people can hear me yet, but Patrick, I have one of the test sites at 1882 Hoodpoint Road. I think there are 3 sites altogether, one at the other end of the system, one on my lot, and one at the center. And I've noticed that in the past, they used to run water regularly through the system. In fact, I bought a line to channel the water from where it was coming out all the way down to the ocean because it was eroding and killing arbutus trees. But I've noticed they've shut it way down. And I'm wondering if that flood rid of those contaminants or whether they could be building up only because it's a dead end.
Patrick, you're talking about the THMs and in the treated potable water samples, and those come, I guess, from the 3 different sites.
From how many tests? I didn't.
Two test sites for the THMs and AJAs on Eagle Cliff Road and Hoodpoint Road.
Yeah, the Hoodpoint Road is the one on my property. It should be 1882 in it. Anyway, I was wondering if it were more open the way it used to be for many years, whether the buildup would be decreased for everyone's health.
Are the THMs higher this year than they've been in previous years?
They're consistently high over the years. There was just one sampling date that had a little lower results in 2019, but all the other years are consistently higher than the recommended maximum.
And what is the cause that usually causes those high readings? Is there some?
It's the reaction of chlorination with organics in the
Chemical reaction.
in the drinking water. So I mean, it's common that you would expect that in systems like Cove Bay, where currently or Eagle Cliff, where there's it's just chlorinated lake water, where you've got filtration. It should be taking those organics out through the filtration with everything else, and you shouldn't really see that.
Well, is that a reflection of what I talked about, that our treatment plant is aging, that there should be newer equipment of some kind, or?
There's newer filtration
Possibly.
methods.
Yeah, I mean that there's different filtration methods, and they did there was a bit of research into that, and there was a different medium tried that was the intent was to improve on that, and it didn't seem to. So it is something that needs further investigation.
So could you just answer my question, please? It used to flow more readily about 4 years ago, and prior to that, 5 years ago, it used to flow constant, such that it wasn't a dead end. They've now shut it off and only open it for a few drops of water.
It's not running at all?
No.
Oh, okay. I thought it was, yeah.
It used to run so much so that I put a 2-inch pipe all the way down to the sea. Now, if it's running at all, it's a drip. A significant difference. And Graham, I'm asking, if it opened up and was no longer effectively a dead end, would that reduce those readings?
I think Annette just said the readings haven't changed over the years. They're the same.
I've looked at the readings, they're only 5 years old, and the system was put in 20 years ago. And for, let's say, 15 years, it was far more open. So I'm asking the question, yes or no, if it were opened, could it reduce the backup?
I don't know. That's something that we can look into. I'll have to pursue that with the utility operators and see whether that might be something worth pursuing.
If I could just support Tom's theory, I work in water management, and it's very commonly associated with low turnover in water systems, such as dead end areas of systems where you can get higher formation potential from DBPs. And obviously there's some sensitivities around flushing and having lines flushing all the time. But I would suggest a trial be done to do some flushing and some sampling thereafter, and you'd probably find a bit of a change there. So at the best of times, it's a low use system, and it's gonna cause for sure.
Yeah, I mean there is, thanks Jesse, there is regular flushing of all of the water systems. From what Tom's saying, it's just not running that sample tap all the time, and perhaps that's something that would be helpful. And we can look into that.
Well, and I think also, Patrick, if I recall, and I can't say now how many, but there was more sites that had drain running all the time, and then property owners were complaining that it was running onto their property and eroding their land. And so I think they were sold. I thought there was something like 4 or even 5 other locations, but that was a while ago. And I think those maybe got turned off to stop the complaining and the people's properties who it was running onto. So whether that is part of it, again, something you could maybe look into.
I have one last question. Why do we have expertise here between Graham and Jesse? Our main water line that runs over 5 easements from the reservoir all the way to where it, I don't know the millimeter, but it's a 4-inch pipe that's exposed and doesn't go underground. other than burying it, which is absolutely impossible or too costly, what are the other alternatives? If we slipped, you know, those styrofoam sleeves you can slip over copper pipes. If we got large foam and put it around this pipe, would that help? Would an electrical trace line help that kicks on at freezing? I just like to know what the alternatives might be.
Essentially, those are your basic options would be to bury the line, insulate the line, heat trace the line. And we haven't really looked into those improvements and what the cost would be.
But if it were, sorry, the foam is really expensive. It is for. Is that effective? Is that last year we had, I don't know, 15 or 17 days where we didn't have water in January and we had to borrow. Would that kind of insulation possibly stop these days?
You could reduce that or possibly eliminate it by insulating the line.
It's inexpensive when we're talking about these numbers that we are in a budget. Buying a foam, you know, they come in 10-foot strips. You snap them over the line.
Yeah, I don't really think, Tom, that that's enough for that. It's already, remember we changed that to an insulated line. It's actually, I think it's 6 or 8 inches, quite a bit bigger line. And I think even that was supposed to, and I think the only thing that was talked about that could do it was electrification, which would then you'd need a generator running somewhere to run a wire through there. But that 100-mile-an-hour outflow, when it's well below, it's the wind chill factor, from what I understand, can be like -40, -50 for a prolonged period. You just can't, unless you totally buried it, is what, or maybe totally electrified it with some generator system. I don't think just the foam would, but anyway, that's another longer term discussion, I guess.
Jesse, do you have any thoughts on that?
It's a question, if Eagle Cliff ultimately get connected to the cove, and then we've got that line that connects Eagle Cliff to us, is that a potential long-term solution?
Well, we already have that. We do get water from Eagle Cliff.
I
For
know,
the
but
long term, that
when
won't
they get connected to
disappear.
the cove, I mean, I don't know how long the Eagle Cliff system is, we do now, of course, but.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter. We already get water from Eagle Cliff, so it's already done.
What Bob's asking is, once Eagle Cliff hooks up to the cove, will that interconnection option in the winter still be available?
Well, it should be, which is no different than it is now. So.
Patrick, you're muted.
Are you talking about as a permanent solution?
Yeah,
No.
to the freezing. So
No.
this whole issue of heat trace and insulating the pipes is a non-event, isn't it?
No, but yeah, that's not a long-term, Bob. They don't want, but we've got our own water source. If for only a period of 3 or 4 weeks, we simply share, and we'll share water with them if there's a fire or any other emergency. But that's
Well,
not.
You won't have, if you happen to have a fire during that period of time, you won't have fire flows because it's only a 2-inch connection between Hoodpoint and Eagle Cliff systems. So it's only domestic supply that you'd be getting.
Yeah.
But I have a question though, if that Eagle Cliff Cove Bay interconnection goes forward, would the Eagle Cliff Reservoir not be decommissioned?
Yes.
So
So
where does the water then come from Cove Bay?
Well, the water then comes from Grafton Lake, right? That's the water.
but then would the Hoodpoint Eagle Cliff interconnection still
Yes.
function? It would?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was Bob's question, yeah.
Okay. Now, is there some other items on the,
Did you approve the minutes, Steve?
their pardon?
Did you approve the minutes? I thought I heard Tom say you hadn't approved the minutes of the,
No, they did.
okay.
Yeah, we approved the minutes, yeah. Okay, I guess we're up to item 7. Is it, oh yeah, this was the
House, Michael?
billing records.
Who's the wall?
No, I guess, what was that? Business arising from the, oh, is that the 2021 minutes? The point
That would be
7,
2020 minutes.
or
That's the last meeting.
2020 minutes, I should say. Is that the business arising from those minutes? Billing records?
You put that
Well,
there, Jeff?
I think that was my request in the last meeting, is that I would meet with someone on staff, maybe it's Annette, who looks after it, and just get a final determination, because there's always been confusion on how many connections and some properties that have unique situations, that we wanted to try to get ours records matching once and for all, and then we would be on the same page going forward. I think that's what that was. So I don't know if that's something we could arrange at some point to review the listing of the meters and users at Hoodpoint and confirm that some of the confusing properties have been sorted out.
Yeah, sure, we can do that. I think the question is about the unconnected, and then there's the one that has 2 connections.
Yeah.
The
Yeah,
number
and I
of
think,
connection is pretty easy to determine.
Yes.
yeah, and I think there's another household that has 2 properties with 2
There's a
meters.
difference between 2 legal laws.
I can't remember what it is now. I've got it way back in notes there of some confusion on some properties, but I don't think it would take long to sort it out, and then we would be not having to, if we're no longer involved, not be having a confusion. Okay, is there any other items that, I guess, questions from members of the public? I don't know if there's any other members there.
Kathy's here.
Yeah, well, if he has any questions.
No questions. Thank you.
Okay, thanks for your contribution. And so that's all that we have to do for we can now move to adjourn.
Move to
Enjoy
adjourn.
the sunshine.
Okay, so moved.
Okay. Thank you all for input.
Steve and Tom, we're going to carry on, as you know, so sign off and go Zoom thing in about 5 minutes. I got to get it set up.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Thanks. Bye.